Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I formally declare open this council meeting of the Colac Otway Shire on the 25th of February 2025 at 1 p.m. I'll start with the opening prayer. Almighty God, we seek your blessing and guidance in our deliberations on behalf of the people of the Colac Otway Shire. Enable this council's decisions to be those that contribute to the welfare and betterment of our community. Amen. I would like to start this afternoon by acknowledging the traditional custodians and lawmakers of this land, their elders past and present, and welcome any descendants here today. Please be advised that this meeting is recorded and live streamed, with the exception of confidential matters. This includes the public participation sections of meetings. The live stream recording of this afternoon's meeting will be available on the website as soon as practicable. By participating in open meetings, individuals consent to the use and disclosure of the information they share at the meeting, including any personal and/or sensitive information. I note that all 7 councillors are present at this meeting and we have no apologies. Confirmation of minutes. I propose that we move to confirm the minutes of the council meetings held on the 11th of December 2024. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hudgell. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Potter. I'll now call for a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickar, Councillor Dood, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. It's carried 7-0. Move on to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Buchanan.
There's going to be a motion put in the farm zone, and I have to say I have an interest in it, but certainly not a conflict. It's just that I know a lot of people in the farming industry and may come up against things from time to time, but it won't be a conflict.
Thank you. Councillor Hudgell.
Thanks, Mayor. In relation to item 7.11, I understand that councillors may be considering changing our planning delegations today. For the record, I have an interest in planning delegations as my partner has a current application being considered by council. I have considered this and don't believe I have a conflict of interest in the delegated authorities, although I will be declaring a conflict of interest if my application ends up being determined at a council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other conflicts of interest? Mr. Surin.
Through you, Mayor. I'd just like to declare a general conflict of interest for item 7.8, Regional Community Sports Infrastructure Fund Round 2. As my family are members of the Colac Cricket Club, which is a tenant of the Lake Oval in Colac. There are a number of projects listed in the report for this reserve.
Thank you. Any other conflicts of interest? No. I will move on to question time. 30 minutes is allowed for question time at council meetings. Community members wishing to ask questions of council by video conference were requested to register their intention before 5 p.m. on Friday the 21st of February 2025. No requests were received. Council has received questions in writing from James Judd, Stanley Kennett, Gary Ritchies, Jeff Cook, Irene Pagram and David Walsh. These questions will be read out and a response will be provided by the relevant member of the executive management team. Questions from James Judd. Response from General Manager, Community and Economy.
Through you, Mayor. The question, since the Colac Otway Shire Council sold off land it owned in Bruce Street, Colac, with no requirement for land to be provided for open space or playing fields, when is this council going to provide these and at what location? As council claimed land would be available at the old Colac High School site, so no land is required. As yet, no works to provide these or anything at the Colac High School site has started or even an undertaking you will ever provide any. Do not forget it was council officers who claimed multi-millions of dollars would have to be received before any playing fields could be planned and developed in the old Colac High School area. Response. A land contribution for public open space from the developers of the Bruce Street land was not required due to the site's proximity to existing public open space, including the Lake Colac foreshore. Instead, a cash contribution was sought from the land developers to assist future improvements to existing open space.
Thank you. Another question from James Judd, General Manager of Infrastructure and Environment.
Thank you, Mayor. The question is, how much longer can the Shire of Colac Otway continue to exist? Now it has gone overboard that only electric power is to be used in many areas the council promotes, i.e. Blue Water, the Colac Holiday Park, plus sites earmarked for development in the Colac 2050 Growth Plan. Since no undertaking has yet been given that a transmission system to bring renewable electricity to Colac will ever actually exist by a set date. As well, this council has a firm contract that requires renewable electricity to be used at the Colac Holiday Park from the start of year 4 of the contract. This is under 4 years away, plus that the frame is within this council's term prior to the next scheduled council election in 2028. So if renewable electricity is not delivering to Colac, this council could face a very expensive damages claim prior to the next scheduled council election. And the response is, renewable energy is provided to land within the Shire via the existing electricity transmission grid. It doesn't require its own separate network of poles and wires. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question from Mr. Judd for a response from General Manager of Infrastructure and Environment.
Okay, the question is, what effort has been put in by the Colac Otway Shire Council to make sure drainage in the Colac urban region is up to standard if we again have a lengthy period of wet weather? When very much of the land earmarked for development in the Colac 2050 Growth Plan is either in or would require access via areas subject to flooding. When very much of the current urban area is only reclaimed, lands that have often been deep under floodwaters multiple times during the last 30 years. Plus, no drainage has been put in to make sure these areas could not again be flooded. Everybody needs to take notice this area has a long history of very regular, prolonged wet periods. For many years, you could count on rain almost every day in the year. Drains that are big enough to take runoff in very hilly areas with very little or no slope. The response? A stormwater development strategy was prepared for Colac in 2019, which identifies areas with poor drainage and flooding potential. This strategy informs Council of future works which can be undertaken to address future flooding impacts. Council has undertaken works to improve drainage in priority locations since that time and is currently working to deliver the Eliminate Wetlands project, which is subject to a separate report on this agenda, which would detain stormwater flows that currently contribute to flooding of low-lying areas around Deans Creek. There's a budget of $80,000 in the 2024-25 budget that is being used to fund strategic drainage improvements in Colac.
Thank you. Another question from Mr. Judd. Response from General Manager of Community and Economy.
Thanks, Mayor. I think I've got the next two, so if you're happy for me to run with those. Will the Colac Otway Shire Council now come out and advise it has abandoned the long-term plan to extend the centre strip on Murray Street, Colac, from Crangamite Street to Armstrong Street? This is now urgent if the CBD is ever to extend as far as Armstrong Street. If you extend the centre strip, we would have a drastic reduction in parking in that area. Response. Council has not abandoned its vision to improve the streetscape of Murray Street west of Crangamite Street. The identified improvement works, however, would come at a considerable cost and beyond the capacity of Council to deliver without significant external grant funding. Council will continue to explore opportunities for funding from other levels of government for this project. The next question from Mr. Judd. When the Colac Otway Shire Council accepts money from developers to provide open space and playing fields instead of land, how can this council justify using this money to provide other uses, i.e. the switching of funds to provide dog parks? It should only be used to provide for the people in those developed areas the money was provided from. Response. At times, council collects cash contributions from land developers in lieu of providing land itself for open space, particularly when the land would not be of sufficient size for usable open space, or there is already existing open space in close proximity to the land which is being developed. The cash is held in a reserve and can only be used to purchase or develop public open space. Use of these funds to develop a dog park at Central Reserve is a legitimate use of these funds, as it will result in the improvement of currently unused open space for a recreational benefit.
Thank you. Now move to a written question from Stanley Kennett. Response from General Manager of Infrastructure and Environment.
Thank you. The question is, will the Colac Council make a law that dog walking is to be prohibited around the perimeter of the Colac Hospital and all schools in Colac? Large signs to be erected on Nature Strip prohibiting dogs in these areas. Will the Colac Council make a law that dog walking is to be prohibited from the Colac Central Business District? And will Colac Council make a law that all dogs walked in all Colac public areas must be on a leash at all times, all public areas? The response: Council does not have any current intention to prohibit walking of dogs in the areas referred to. There are requirements for dogs to be on a leash within the Colac Township, being the central business area and the Lake Colac foreshore. Dogs outside of those areas need to be under effective control of the owner. Council is reviewing its domestic animal management plan during the course of this year, and there'll be opportunities for public input. We encourage feedback from the community on any issues of concern to be expressed through this process.
Thank you. Now move on to written question from Gary Ritchie's, response from General Manager, Infrastructure and Environment. Oh yeah, I'll go to you at the public question time. I'll just get through the written questions, and then we'll get. Yep. Okay. Thank you. We'll now move on to written questions from Jeff Cook. Response from General Manager of Governance, Customer and Communications.
Question 1 from Jeff. I have 2 questions relating to the council plan consultation. Firstly, I note the various means by which members of the public can get involved: survey, pop-up sessions, focus groups, etc. However, there is no mention of people being able to write a letter or submission and send it to an appropriate email address or by post. Will this be a means by which the public's views can be considered? Secondly, I note a number of focus groups that will have a chance to have their say, but there is no mention of groups involved in the environment, climate change or land care groups. Will this oversight be corrected? In response, the council plan consultation is offering several ways for people to get involved and submit their ideas. The more feedback we get, the better, whether that be at face-to-face sessions, online sessions, or through surveys and written responses. The online survey through council's website is one option for feedback available to all. Hard copies are available from our customer service centres if preferred. We're also providing a brief form for those who have 1 or 2 ideas or issues they want considered and may not necessarily want to do the longer form survey. Letters or submissions will also be accepted via the normal channels through the post or emailed to the email address inq@colacotway.vic.gov.au. On the second point, issues related to the environment will be captured in the process. Local environment, land care and climate change groups have been invited to a focus group session in March as part of their next Community Climate Change Action Forum here with the Council. Interested persons can also use any of the available channels to share their ideas in relation to the environment. For full details on how, where and when to get involved in the council plan process, you can go to our council website. And we do need as many ideas as possible to bring before councillors to inform the next 4-year plan.
Thank you. I'll now move on to questions from Irene Pagram. Response from General Manager, Community and Economy.
Through you, Mayor. Whilst employed by Colac Otway, I facilitated a cultural advisory group tasked with improving council's working relationship with our First Nations community. Indigenous leaders gave generously of their time, expertise and knowledge as committee mentors, guiding me in formulating the recommendations that council always displays the Aboriginal flag together with the Australian national flag, and to make the acknowledgement of country at the commencement of every council meeting and Shire event. Colac Otway had lagged behind other municipalities who had already moved towards this respectful and rightful inclusion. I noted another step towards improving relationships across our entire community when the Citizenship and Community Awards were moved from 26th January. Citizenships conferred on any other day in the year have as much standing in the law, and Community Awards held on any other day allows everyone to celebrate away from a date that causes anguish to a such significant portion of our community, no matter their heritage. Please do not return the Citizenship and Community Awards to 26th January. Given that Council's strategic plans have the theme of a safe, equitable and inclusive community, including actions to work in partnership with local Indigenous groups, why would Council wish to wind the clock back, risk the genuine steps made towards reconciliation and return to the wrong side of history? Response. The matter of activities on Australia Day is in today's meeting agenda via a notice of motion for consideration by councillors, so it would not be appropriate for officers to make comment about this matter.
Thank you. Now move on to written questions from David Walsh. Response from General Manager, Community and Economy. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. This question's about the Ilmenite Wetlands project. This is the third time I've raised this at Council. The last time was May last year. I asked several questions about the funding, the lack of progress and the finish date, etc. Council's reply was that it is progressing well, funding is in place with the finish date of March 2026. Now on today's Council agenda, 9 months later, we find a $2.5 million blowout disaster created by the glacial pace of years of planning from underperforming bureaucrats and consultants, but with creative adjustments of ratepayers' funds, we can expect a lesser finished project for just $1.3 million extra. My only question is, will the CEO and General Manager resign after this debacle? Response. The report in the agenda regarding the Ilmenite Wetlands clearly articulates the status of the project along with the associated challenges with delivering the project, including timing and budget. The reasons for the project delays have been detailed in the report, along with an explanation about cost escalations, which is reflective of the civil construction sector over the past few years.
Thank you. And that concludes our written questions. Now move to questions from the gallery. In accordance with our governance rules, we have sought registration for questions from the gallery. Before we begin, Council has received a petition titled Save Meredith Park. This petition will be tabled later during this Council meeting. We have Mr. Jack Russell attending the meeting today as head petitioner to speak to his petition. Mr. Russell? Yeah, if you want to come up, take a seat. You have 5 minutes to address the Council.
Hey guys, probably have to excuse me, I've never done anything like this before. In regards to Meredith Park, why close it? It's a huge economic benefit to our town. There's people coming from Perth, there's people coming from Adelaide before they get on the Spirit of Tasmania. They're all spending money in town. We have backpackers from all around the world that stay there. They are clean, they don't cause any problems. The businesses in town are making a lot of money, whether it be tyres, and I'm not joking, a bra, which has now got an online order with this lady that's found a place in Colac. Some of our issues out there are obviously rubbish. I've been out there pretty much every day since the 7th of September. I've probably missed less than 2 handfuls of days cleaning up and talking to people that are going to see our area. None of them have any idea about Red Rock. If we're going to promote our shire and encourage people to come here, let's do it. Put some signs up out at Meredith Park about what's there to see. What's out at Red Rock? I've done a bit of a list here. Can I hand these to you guys? Yep. Excuse me for a second.
Yeah, if you just give them to Jill,
Yeah.
she'll pass them around. So.
Sorry, I'm shaking. Also, in regards to Council receiving the petition, I only found out about 10 minutes ago that it's not going to be accepted properly because I didn't address it to the Mayor. I was told to present it. Because I've never done anything like this, I was
just been
unaware
told
that I had
it
to
will be accepted.
present it to the Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got any questions for me, fire away. No?
We will be tabling the petition
Yeah.
later in the meeting, and
Yeah.
then officers will do a report for a future meeting for consideration of the petition.
Yeah, and I'll just let you know, I handed the petition in before Christmas because it was costing me a hell of a lot of money to drive out there all the time. I started recollecting the signatures, but I was made aware by the council officers that no more numbers could be counted after I'd handed that petition in to council. So there's probably another 300 to 400 you can add to the number you've got. And I honestly believe I could have got 4,000 signatures, which is not too bad, I think. That's about it. Yeah, let's charge a fee to camp out there, $5, $10, but only charge for adults, not children. And I believe our local ratepayers should be able to stay there for free. No charge for ratepayers. So when they fill out their permit to camp at Meredith Park, they put their postcode in, they don't have to pay. Because as ratepayers, I don't think we should have to. As far as the permanents go, a couple told me this morning that if there is a fee put up for camping out there, they're going to leave. Let's do it. Put a fee on. We'll get the permanents gone. That's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Cheers. Thank you. We'll now move on to those that have registered. I have Frank Castles. Is he present? Yep. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Just like to make note that when Colac Otway Shire managed the Port of Apollo Bay, they had the opportunity to introduce a freight link between King Island and Victoria through Apollo Bay. Colac Otway Shire not only didn't allow that, they took steps to actively prevent that from happening. Now, given that there's no substantial infrastructure issues, no substantial operational issues, no substantial or substantiated environment or community issues, I'd like to ask if the CEO would be prepared to apologise to the King Island farmers, beef farmers, the drought-impacted farmers, the King Island community for additional costs of freight, the COS businesses which have been negatively impacted, including the trucking companies, the livestock agents and building suppliers, and the Victorian business for the likes of the abattoirs from outside our Colac Otway Shire, our local government area, and the Victorian Government Department of Transport through significant loss of revenue from wharfage from this initiative. Would the CEO be prepared to apologise to these people and agencies?
Thanks for the question. I'll allow them to respond.
Through the Chair. So, Mr Castles, I think that you know there's a lot behind the management of the Port of Apollo Bay, and that the port manager has responsibilities under various legislation, and that they were exercised at a point in time to get a greater understanding of a proposal. I don't think that that warrants an apology. So no, thanks.
Thank you. Do you have another question? Frank?
Yeah, I do. The second question is, we've only got one councillor from the previous term, was a councillor and also an acting mayor at the time. Does that councillor take responsibility for the CEO's actions and behaviours during this activity?
Thank you. Do you need to comment? Do you need to comment or? Okay, thanks. You can't
Sorry,
answer
what
the
was that?
question.
I didn't get
Councillor Potter, you're referring to, can't answer that question for you. Sorry.
Okay.
Thanks, Frank. Now, I've got you down, Jack Russell, to ask a question, but was that just to speak there before? Or do you have another question?
Yeah, no, I did forget to mention something in regard
Sorry, you'll have to step up. Yeah, thank you.
I did forget to mention something in regards to the fires out there. being lit on total fire ban days. It's not campers doing it, it's the carp fishermen from Melbourne. They are lighting fires on total fire ban days to cook the carp as they eat them. Let's just ban the fires on the ground. Obviously, they're going to have a pit, which some of them do have, but yeah, I just want the community to know that it's not campers lighting the fires.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next question, Tosh Jake Finnegan. Set up, thank you.
My apologies. I probably should just note before I ask my question and before time starts, if we could take just a moment to point out, a lot of people in the gallery have been pointing out the appalling state of audio in the chamber. So if I could just implore councillors and the council organisation to perhaps look into funding an audio upgrade or something for this room, because democracy isn't served well when the people who are here to watch a meeting can't actually hear what's being said. Now, thank you. Now
Call Mr. Gary Ritchies up to the lectern. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, welcome to the new councillors. All the best for the 4 years ahead. My question's in relation to some land in Apollo Bay. Probably before I ask the question, just needs to say a few things so we're on the same page. We had some fires down there a couple of weeks ago. I got phone calls from a lot of residents. I don't know why they pick on me, but I get the phone calls about their concerns. Some of them were quite hysteric about the fear in the township of Apollo Bay when these fires come through. I'm sure Mr. Potter would know what I'm talking about. It was quite horrific with the California fires on everyone's minds. They were 7 kilometres out of Apollo Bay. Now, if the winds had have changed, it would have headed towards Apollo Bay. Where we are, the outskirts of Apollo Bay, down the end of Park Avenue, we don't have any fire protection. A developer came in and bought the property here a few years ago and wants to put 35 lots down there in a floodplain right up against the trees. His reports are all flawed. His engineers, his fire authority reports, they're all flawed. They're all corrupt as far as I'm concerned. This is my opinion only. An example of what a farmer would do with his property. The Grampian fires, the fires were heading, the wind was going to change, the fires are coming out of the Grampians, they're heading towards a cropper's crops. He's got tens of thousands of acres under crop. They decide they've got 2 days. They decide to burn out 5,000 acres around the farm, around the house itself. They bought all their machinery, hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably millions of dollars worth of harvesters and machineries cattle in around that property. The wind changed, the fire come through. Burned out everything except their farm and all their stuff. Everything was saved except the crop. Well, he's a big cropper. His crop was insured, so he lost nothing. Here we are, we sit in Apollo Bay with nothing. No protection whatsoever from wildfires. None. Not only this 10-acre allotment that backs up on the end of Park Avenue, 50 metres or 100 metres down the road's a school. Then there's the hospital, the ambulance station, the leisure centre, right there, and we do nothing. The fire threat around the world today is big. We all know it. They call it climate change. Whether it is or not is another thing. So here we are, the fires are coming, and we've got grass a metre high lapping up against our doorsteps. 3 metres away from our doorstep, right up against sheds, right up against properties, a metre high, because the council has failed, I suppose, in a way, to protect us. The grass shouldn't have been there. It's the end of summer next week. Thank you, Chris, and the other, there's a couple of councillors from down there for their quick actions. And yes, they got in and they cut a little strip, but just left it on the ground. At least it was cut. We've got to start. I was down there last week. Yeah, okay, great. The whole block's been slashed, but once again, just cut and left on the ground. Well, anyone that's got anything to do with fires will know that it's not really achieving much at all. The fuel load's still sitting there. It's still sitting there today. It's not good enough.
I'll just have, you're running out of time, Gary. If you've got a question,
All right.
just
It's
ask.
not really good enough in my opinion. There's a lot of locals there calling for I'll read the question out. What actions will the council take in response to their failure to protect the Apollo Bay residents from the threat of fire due to insufficient vegetation management? And how will they address the community's call for a rezoning of the area of land to create a more sustainable buffer zone to safeguard against both fire and flood?
Thank you.
That's my question.
I have a response from General Manager of Environment, Mr. McNeil.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wish to acknowledge the concerns of the Apollo Bay community. Certainly, any fire event can cause genuine concerns about the threat to their safety. Council has a very important role in terms of fire prevention. It's one of a number of agencies that work together, certainly in the lead up to the summer period, but all throughout the year there's cooperation to see what each of those agencies are able to do within their powers that prepare for fire events. Council has a fairly major role in our fire prevention program every summer. It's about making sure that landowners, particularly around the periphery of towns, maintain their properties in a state where the fuel load on those properties is giving the least potential for fire to threaten abutting properties. You've expressed some concerns today and in recent weeks about the long grass on those particular properties. Council was certainly in the process of liaising with those owners to have them slashed in a timely way, and we'll continue to work with those landowners going forward to make sure that they maintain their properties in a state to avoid fire threat. But Council does need to give notice to property owners. It can't just go and slash properties without giving them an appropriate opportunity to do that themselves, and in this instance Council did intervene directly before that event to try and create a small strip to directly address the concerns, but take the feedback that you've given today.
My next question is just quickly, what does the Colac Otway Shire, do they think they need to do something in response to this? We've got land there that is full of grass that hasn't had any attention, nothing's been done. The people ring up, they don't get calls back. When you do get a call back, you're told that, oh, well, this is our procedure, or this is our legislation. Well, your legislation is failing the people from Apollo Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Riches. I would make the point that if anyone has a concern that there hasn't been a response to a call to council to have an issue addressed of that nature, I'd certainly encourage them to contact council again and make a complaint, and we'll investigate that complaint under our complaints handling policy. We're certainly very keen to know that if people have raised issues that haven't been addressed, and we'll certainly follow that up.
Thank you. Is Irene Pagram here? Pagram? Thank you.
My question is about 10.1, Notice of Motion, Australia Day, and it is referred directly to Councillor Schramm as he is seeking to move this motion. Councillor Schramm, you promised, to quote from your published candidate's vision, build better relationships with our community, build a better future, a council we can all be proud of. Why wouldn't you choose to wait until the Australia Day date is changed away from the 26th of January so Council's citizenship ceremony and community awards can be held on that new date when everyone in our community can celebrate equally?
Thank you. Thank you. Whilst I can't preempt a decision or what might happen of council, I'm not here to debate, and nor is a notice of motion on the 26th of January. It's we've had a lot of people in the community with different points of views, for and against the 26th. But I think it's up to the council to decide and debate on Australia Day, and encourage people that if they don't like the date set to continue to lobby the federal government, because they're the ones that make the decision. And mine is to just have a celebration on Australia Day, and quite simply, there's many people in the community that would like to celebrate Australia Day, just as those same people choose not to. But my notice of motion isn't about the date, it's just about Australia Day, whatever the date the federal government set that on. Thank you. Do you have another question? No? Mr. Alan Billing.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm not too sure that the seat's a good idea. We might get too comfortable. 7.9 on today's agenda, and the attached letter to the councillors from the Minister. It is clear that changes to the Local Government Act has significantly changed the role of councillors. I also expect that following the induction process, there are some councillors who find themselves in a role different to what they thought they might have had initially when they put their hand up and volunteered for the role. The community in the main is unaware of these changes, so the expectations they have of their elected representatives cannot be met. My question then is, when will Council provide the community with a clear and unambiguous statement setting out the role, the councillors' role that they must perform, their responsibilities and their obligations?
Thanks for the question, CEO.
Thanks, Mr. Billing. So the role of the councillors, I think, is very clearly defined in the Local Government Act 2020 and has been through all legislation. So the role is documented and clear and publicly available. I think what you're saying is that we probably need to help our community understand that that is the role for councillors, so that there's an alignment between what the community expects and what the councillors have actually power, authority and responsibility to do. Is that, I think that's the case. And so, I think that's a great idea, and I think it's something that clearly the community probably wouldn't have that clear understanding. We can look at our website perhaps, where we have a page about councillors and where people might go to contact their councillor, and there's their phone number, and maybe us saying up front, here are the things that councillors can do, contact them for these things, this is their role, would be helpful. And I've actually seen some good examples of that on some other council websites now that I think about it. So I think there might be a piece there. And as always, we are relying on our councillors to be able to talk to their community about their role, but also help to guide them to the organisation if that's where they need to be, or things that they can take carriage of. We'll make sure that our councillors have that support.
Thank you. There's also a document, I think, that Council is producing every 6 months that goes to every resident. There has been one document circulated.
Yeah, so thanks, Mr. Billing, through the chair. We have recently issued in a print update in a newsletter, just trying a different communication method. We know that some people won't really want that. Some would like it just in the email. Some people like to have something on their coffee table or kitchen table. And so that's another opportunity, you're right, where we can not just show the good photos of our councillors, but talk in that about what their role is, open to all of those suggestions.
Thank you. Just quickly, it's a personal view, and probably because I may be too old, but I am concerned about the current seating or the changes within the council chamber. Okay, old tradition. I I believe there should be a greater separation between the elected representatives and the staff that are there, advisory. They're an important role, don't doubt that. But the separation in the decision-making process, the councils, I believe, should have a better separation from the administration. Thank you.
We'll definitely note that, Mr. Milling. Thank you. Jeff Cook. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two questions relating to the Blue Water electrification project. Current estimates are that domestic gas supplies to Victoria may be running short by 2028, a mere 3 years' time. There is already work being done at the state level on which gas users will be prioritised. I understand swimming pools will not be high on the list. Is Council prepared to have a non-operational pool in the near future? And my second question is, if you hand back the $1.3 million in federal funds, will this affect any future applications for federal funds, and how will Council deal with the public profile and reputational damage?
Thank you. Just on the first question, I'll hand to Manager of Blue Water on the first question.
In regards to the first question about a closure of Blue Water, obviously that wouldn't be Council's preference. It's a really important facility. It gets significant usage from our community, so certainly no, we wouldn't be looking to have a closure of the facility for an extended period of time.
And CEO on reputational damage and the handing the grant back.
Oh, that's...
We have any reputational damage for not accepting the grant?
Look, reputations are judged by others, so I'm not the people person giving grants out, but it's my experience that grants are given for really good projects when there's a really good case made. There are other reasons why grants can be given, and you know, there are times also where projects with a grant don't continue. There's no black and white answer about whether that'll impact reputation. It might not.
So if grants are given out when there's a really good case for them, then obviously the Blue Water grant is a very good case. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Elizabeth Ryan, thank you.
Hi, for those that don't know me, I'm Elizabeth Ryan from Birregurra, and for years I've written about roads and discussed roads in our shire. And fortunately, over the weekend, I found a response from the Colac Otway Shire dated the 9th of February 2010 from the previously presented to Council's Road Committee. And there's 6 pages, and on the back page, one of my local roads is Cons Lane, and I'm always really worried about what's happening out there. And the council actually responded that at that time, back in 2010, that the heavy traffic that was using it wouldn't use it because it was just a section of a non-significant road, basically. Well, that significantly changed with the highway duplication. My concern was the heavy vehicle usage, the intersection being too tight to allow vehicles to move safely around that corner. Nothing has changed. There are near misses regularly, and council should be aware. And both the highway end is now of major concern as well. The Cons Lane itself, the bridge was a 1-lane bridge, which was replaced probably 15 years ago. I can't recall. My kids were on the school bus then. I recall one of the kids actually having to come round. The culvert on the north end, I've just spoken recently to a local business, trucking business from Winchelsea. They can't believe that you've left the culvert, over the lock culvert, as that narrow bridge, and the signage is just appalling. One of your council officers used to have a folder just with my name on it about my issues and roads. So I've had council officers out, I've had councillors out to have a look at what's going on. The council officers that attended last year actually got scared standing on Warrell Station Road looking at how traffic approaches Cons Lane. We still fail, even though apparently there's been 2 road safety audits. I've seen one. I was privileged to see one. They failed to address, there's actually no sign saying there's an intersection ahead. The give way sign blew down weeks ago that hasn't been replaced. There's signs along the approach to from the north side to the Cons Lane Bridge. The left-hand side's been missing for eternity. People just don't know and not warned early enough what the changes are in that road. And we've got a compounding issue. We've got the gravel trucks about to start up again in Cons Lane, and then we've got it compounded from the either end with the closure, or basically the closure of the Cape Otway Road and the Winchelsea Deans Marsh Road, because that roundabout's finally been done up, which is fantastic. But then further down the Winchelsea Deans Marsh Road, there was a landslip about 12 months ago close to the Rifle Butts Road end, which I also have frontage to at the other end. And we know that that road's a disaster waiting to happen as well. And it's in traffic apparently is going to be diverted back through Berry with those significant roadworks happening there also.
Do you have a question?
I have a question. When is council finally going to write something and do something? Even a simple giveaway correct sign, I actually requested in December, still hasn't come to fruition. Simple things could be done, but you're not even interested.
I'll have a response from Mr McNeil.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks for the question, Ms Ryan. Council certainly has taken the issues you've raised very seriously. I know that we've been in communication with you. Staff in my department met with you last year. The CEO and I met with senior representatives of the Department of Transport and Planning only a week or 2 ago, and we're raising these issues with them. That includes the intersection safety issues with the Princess Highway and Cons Lane, the Cape Otway Road intersection with Cons Lane, as well as the narrow bridge on Cons Lane itself. And so we were emphasising the concerns about safety in those locations and asking for them to take that on board in terms of their future decision making, certainly around the intersection they're directly responsible for at the highway. As you know, Council has applied for some funding under the Black Spot program with the Transport Accident Commission to seek some improvements to the Cape Otway Road intersection, and we're very hopeful that we'll get support through that program. And
I'd like to just comment. I was advised that Council was told by the Department of Transport that it wasn't eligible for that road. Is that true?
There's two funding programs.
Okay.
There was one program where the department didn't support us putting in an application, but we've lodged an application through a different funding program, which with the TAC, and then we're still waiting for an outcome on that application. But the other thing too is I'll certainly follow up on those issues you've raised about the signs, but I'm in the process at the moment of trying to organise a meeting with yourself, representatives from the department and council officers to discuss the very issues that you're raising tonight, so hopefully we can keep those conversations going.
And yeah, people are just scared that there's going to be a major fatality, and we've had a near miss on May the 6th last year when a vehicle coming down Cons Lane, it was not badly reported, limited report in the Colac Herald basically didn't explain that the little car that went through the intersection and actually went through a gravel truck heading east, went through between the trailer and the dog trailer. That little car ended up basically at the corner. The truck fortunately didn't roll and ended up further down the Cape Otway Road. But the engine of that little car ended up 70 metres back up Cons Lane. And the roads were closed for absolute hours, and the police had to block the highway, they had to block the Cape Otway Road, both ends of the Cape Otway Road. So the community doesn't really know the impact, and the CFA and the emergency services that were there for absolute hours, and they actually basically had to waiting for a coroner's report because I think they thought it was going to be fatality.
Thanks,
so,
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I know, but you guys don't live out there. You see the near misses. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll have that meeting sooner rather than later, Doug.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Thank you. Marina Lewis. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, councillors, CEO, staff and fellow citizens. This question relates to the option to reconsider blue water funding, which is apparent in the agenda. Just a bit of context. Council voted 7-0 on 11th of December last year to allocate 1.3 million of ratepayers' funds to remediate Moolerick Road. There were no questions by any councillor as to the propriety of this action, and it was apparently not difficult at all to find those funds in council revenue. The funding source wasn't commented on by any councillor. So my question, why now, when a cost-saving windfall of 1.3 million has been received via a federal grant for matching funds to replace ongoingly and increasingly expensive and ageing gas heating at Bluewater Centre, would you as councillors even be considering refusing these funds in favour of prioritising funding for the wetlands project, which can be sourced later? So if this is so, what is the justification, please?
In the meeting, if you'll let me answer, in the agenda, it doesn't say anything about scrapping the funding. It's moving funds from one to another project and then replenishing that for a number of reasons. It's in the report.
It's an option.
There's the officers who put different options with justifications in that. Who's general manager?
Good, so there's no, I mean, terrific if it's not on the board. Fantastic.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, just to clarify, obviously with something like the Eliminate Wetlands report, there is numerous options that officers have presented to our councillors. You'll see in the recommendation from officers that there's no discussion around or no mention of not proceeding with the Blue Water electrification project.
Okay, terrific. That's good news. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have gone half an hour over time, but that concludes question time. We move on to petitions and joint letters. We get item 5.1, receipt of petition titled Save Meredith Park. The purpose of this report is to receive and note the petition titled Save Meredith Park. Do any councillors wish to ask questions of officers? I've got a question. So in this, there's also a resolution to bring something back to council. Will council need a different resolution moving forward with Meredith Park, or how do we address both, like the council's resolution that's currently standing and the petition?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, for the question. So yes, there is a resolution regarding Meredith Park, and that is to go out for community engagement on two options. One is to continue for Meredith Park to be a camping ground, and the other option is to revert Meredith Park back to day use or public open space. So we're about to go out for community consultation on those two options, and then we would bring a report back to council. So the petition would be considered part of that consultation. So we would do it all in one report back to council.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions of officers?
No, not of officers, but thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate Jack Russell for the work that he has done out at Meredith Park. If you go out there any time, you can see him out there with a bucket and little claw things and picking up rubbish, and a great advocate for the area. And yeah, well done, Jack.
Thank you. Does any councillor wish to move a motion in relation to this item? Councillor Potter? What's your motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'll adopt the officer's recommendation as my motion, please.
Thank you. Is it to be seconded? Councillor Howard, as the mover. Councillor Potter?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just briefly, I'd like to support what Councillor McCrickard say and thank Jack Russell for the ongoing work out there. He's out there cleaning up, speaking to campers, and I think down the track should councillors call for submissions from members of the public who provide a great source of the economic contribution campers make at Meredith Park to the Shire.
Thank you. Councillor Howard as a seconder.
I support all the good comments about the community. One question is, are we allowed to keep the maps that were presented?
Are we allowed to keep those things you presented? Yeah, okay. We'll sort something out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Buchanan.
I guess I've met Jack out there a couple of times doing his rounds and done a terrific job, Jack, over the years. But I suppose one thing I have noticed going out there that during the peak periods of holiday periods, substantially the whole camping ground is covered with tents, caravans, from one end to the other. And I think years ago, before the apps come up on computers where you can see free camping and stuff like that, it didn't get bombarded with the numbers that it does get bombarded with now. So I guess it should be a fairly strong consideration that that's a beauty spot for the community in our Shire. It's not a caravan park at the moment. It certainly shows that there is a need for more camping areas or specific caravan parks in our Shire, which is not provided at this stage. But I do think there's a lot of merit in, retaining the beautiful spot that it is in a less robust way.
I'll just remind you, Charlie, that we're just
yes,
noting the petition. We're not getting into the pros and cons of a future decision. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, thanks. Is any other councillor wish to speak? No, we have a motion before us. We'll now put to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Dedew, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm is carried 7-0. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Sorry, there are no planning and responsible authority decisions. We'll now move to officer reports. Item 7.1, project budget adjustments and cash reserve transfers. Purpose of this report is to present the project budget adjustments and cash reserve transfers for council ratification and approval. These budgets are for 2024-25 capital works and operational projects. Any questions of officers, councillors? No? Does any councillor wish to move a motion in relation to this item? Councillor Potter, is it to be seconded? Councillor McCrickard. Councillor Potter is the mover.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, moving this item. Just want to mention in relation to table 3A in the officer's report, and mention the extra contribution of $12,000 to the Ruby Court footpath reconstruction. I think this is a good outcome with the Shire partnering with the community to achieve something that the community preferred, and I congratulate officers for their work on that. And also wanted to mention the Eastern Reserve training facility and allocating $50K for contingency in relation to delivering that project. I think that's both those are worth mentioning above some of the others.
Thank you. As a seconder, Councillor McCrickard. No, any other councillor wish to speak? No, I just wanted to make mention of that Eastern Reserve project that now the council's stumping up the contingency. It's been nearly 3 years, and hopefully it can kick on, and those, in particular the baseball club, can have a training facility which they've gone without for 3 years, and the cricketers can have that indoor facility. I think it's a great community project led by the community and fully funded by the community sourcing grants. I think it's a great thing, and if council can stump up the contingency to get the job started and finished, I think it's a great thing. Thank you. We have a motion before us, councillors. We'll now put to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Dedew, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm is carried 7-0. Thank you. Now move on to item 7.2, the Colac Civic Health and Rail Precinct Plan, exhibition of draft plan. The purpose of this report is to present the draft Civic Health and Rail Precinct Plan and requests authorisation to exhibit the draft document and invite public submissions. Do any councillors wish to ask questions of officers? No. We have an officer recommendation in the agenda. Do I have a mover? Councillor Potter. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hudgell. As the mover, Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. I won't talk for long on this. But this is we're just voting to put this plan out for community information and consultation. There's been a couple of different iterations of this over the last few years. This is the latest one, given some changes in relation to some government bodies that have withdrawn from the original plan. I remember some community consultation some years ago that was very well attended, and I encourage everyone to have a good look at this plan and give us their thoughts.
Thank you. Councillor Hudgell as a seconder. No? Any other councillor wish to say anything on the draft exhibition plan? No? We have the motion before us. Councillors will now put to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Duke, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm, carried 7-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 7.3, Limonite Wetlands Project update. Do any councillors wish to ask questions of officers? No? I've got an alternative motion. I'm not sure if we've got it up there. That I'll table that. I'll read it out. It's a significant change. That notes the planning and design works completed to date for the Limonite Wetlands project has identified that the total estimated project cost to complete the current scope could exceed the available budget. Determines to proceed with the Limonite Wetlands projects as follows. A, adopt a project scope that includes I, the stormwater detention and treatment infrastructure, including those landscaping elements required for this facility to perform its intended function and be able to be properly maintained. Aye. Sufficient open space elements to meet the requirements of the funding agreement with the state government, and further open space elements that are achievable within the available budget. B, allocates a further 1.3 million in funding as a contingency to support the delivery of the project through the following project budget adjustments and cash commitments. I, declines and withdraws from the Federal Government Community Energy Upgrades Fund grant for the Blue Water Electrification Project. I, release $842,955 of cash from the Blue Water Electrification Project and allocate to the Limonite Wetlands Project to form part of the contingency. And I allocate $257,045 of funds from the Strategic Projects Reserve Bruce Street sale proceeds to the Limonite Wetlands Project to form part of the contingency and allocate, allocate $200,000 of funds from the Strategic Projects Reserve Coastal Path Connection to the Limonite Wetlands Project to form part of the contingency, and 3, supports officers to continue to work in partnership with the state government representatives to deliver this important project. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Buchanan. Discussion. I'm sorry, it's written up there too as well.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd like to foreshadow a motion if this motion fails.
Thank you. The purpose of this and the wording of this motion for the contingency is that it's only an estimate or quantum survey that this project has exceeded expectations. I'm disappointed that it's got to this point. There's $3 million grant received from the government to proceed with this project, an allocation of $1 million of council money, and it should have been completed several years ago. I can't see any real reasons about why it's taken so long to not deliver a project and allow costs to potentially exceed the budget. I think we should have gone out to tender to see whether it might have come within the scope, and then we wouldn't have to be here, trying to shuffle funds around. The reason for withdrawing from the Blue Water grant is that's another project that requires 1.3 million of council funds, and clearly we don't have those funds to spend on that project. Those boilers don't need to be replaced for 5 or 6 years. There's nothing wrong with them at the moment. I understand there's a environmental element that some people believe that could help, and I don't want to argue against that, but it's a project that we don't need to do right now, and we don't have the money, and having council have to take a loan is a key indicator about why we can't afford it. We can't afford to barely do footpaths and things. We look at the limonite wetlands that should have been delivered, and the costs have increased. I don't know, taking on another project that's not fully scoped and full of hypothetical assumptions is the right thing to do. So that's my reason for it. It's not a protest against any environmental thing. It's if we needed to upgrade these boilers within the next 12 months or even 2 years, you'd say, okay, you can justify it. But it's something that's not broken, it's paid for, and isn't costing us that much money now. That's my reason for the change in, and I hope it gets supported. If it doesn't, well, so be it, but that's my reason. I don't think we're in a financial position to take it on at this stage. Councillor Buchanan is the seconder.
I'd just like to speak in support of the Mayor's motion. The information we've been given is 4 to 6 years before repairs are probably needed. We're not told what repairs, it's just a bit of a guesstimate there. I look at it as a purely operational function of this council, and in operating all our functions in this council, it should be treated on that basis. If we've got an up and running system that works well, however it's powered doesn't really matter. We put it in there, it's working fine, and I think we've got a responsibility as a council to use the money that's collected from ratepayers in a wise manner. And that's not just like having a tractor. If the gearbox is broken or the clutch is broken, you don't go and buy a new one if it's still functional. You fix it up and keep it going. So that's a possibility there. And what I've learned in my business acumen in my life is that you make money by operating equipment that's paid for. This unit is paid for. It's costing us nothing at the moment. And I know there's an argument there that we're going to save $130,000 a year, but if you're looking at $1.3 million at 10% interest, that's that amount of money. So it's a 10-year payback, and quite possibly a brand new electrification system would be close to its lifespan at the end of that 10 years. So I just don't see it as wise spending at the moment when we need to gap up and plug holes in other spends at the moment. I think we should have very, very enthusiastically looked at deferment, and I don't see how a state government, who we're getting funding from for this, the grant, would be disappointed in someone being honest with them about let's put it off for a while, and that still can be done, I believe. I can't see a broke government knocking back a windfall. If we want to defer it for a little while, they should be saying thank you to us if we went down that track. We may well end up with a compromise on this vote, and I accept that, but I think it's very, very unwise to spend money and have to wait 10 years before you get a return on that investment in these tough times. As a councillor, I have to think about the footpaths and not in Viragara and Forest and other places where we get the money. I just don't think it's a wise spend at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak? Oh, Councillor Potter, saw you first.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I understand the purpose of this motion, and you know, our budget is tight, and looking for opportunity to save money or spend money wisely. Totally support that. I am a big supporter of the Eliminate Wetlands project. I think it's vital to open up housing so Colac continue to grow. I do believe, though, that it's possible to make that extra allocation money to that and continue with the electrification of Bluewater and take advantage of $1 million from the federal government. I understand that those the gas burners at Bluewater are working now. We do know that they are approaching their end of life. We do know that parts are difficult to obtain for those burners, and the price of gas continues to increase all the time. Not sure why, there's plenty of it in Bass Strait, but it is, and we have to look forward. I was a member of the council who supported this electrification program 7-0. I stand by that vote, notwithstanding the sensible arguments presented by yourself and Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you. Councillor Dudu.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try and speak louder. I do understand that this is a really tight financial climate that we're under at the moment. So I do understand wanting to hold on to as many funds as we can. I believe the officers have come up with a really good idea of how we can accomplish both. I do question the validity of refusing $1.3 million from the government when in 5 years we'll likely have to find it ourselves.
Thanks. If you could just let her finish, thank you.
If we're going to have to find those funds ourselves, and we won't be making the savings that would happen if we did choose to go the electrification process and not have to pay $140,000 per year on gas, and that's for now. 2 years ago, gas prices went up 20%, and it's projected that it will continue to raise. I know that climate isn't everyone's favourite issue, but as far as health, it's one of our biggest inputs of emissions for our shire. So yeah, health and well-being of our community and the future for our community should be our one priority. So if we could think ahead for saving our funds and saving our health.
Thank you. Councillor Howard, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I agree with the councillors. This is one decision that we've deliberated on. We've got lots of information. The community's been involved, which is what you want. That's what democracy is about. As a council, I take my fiscal responsibilities. I take it not lightly, but I also have listened to arguments about the potential savings, the reputational damage of returning funds, again, and also respect for previous council's decision and for future council to respect our decisions as well. I'm hoping that if this motion does fail, that the motion I'm foreshadowing will in some way give confidence to our councillors about the funding and how it will help our budgets in the short term and in the long term, looking for a solution. So again, I respect everyone's argument with this, and I respect the community's input into it too, and I'm sure what will happen will be an informed decision. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor McCrickard.
Thank you, Mayor. I certainly understand where the Mayor and Councillor Buchanan are coming from. They make very realistic and sensible arguments, as always. My feeling is that if we're fortunate enough to get a grant for 1.3 million, then we use it. I think the blue water, and I think too that with the ilmenite wetlands, there is an element of it that we can participate in and complete that would serve the purpose in the immediate future. So, whilst again I recognise the qualities and the argument of other councillors, that is my position. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd write a reply, but I won't use it. We've got a motion before us now, put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Schramm, Councillor Buchanan. All those against? Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Dew, Councillor Howard is lost 2-5. Councillor Howard, you foreshadowed an alternative motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My motion returns somewhat back to the officer's recommendation with an additional note, which I'll read out. It's note 3. Notes that Council notes it supports the Blue Water electrification project, which anticipates operational savings of $140,000 per annum once fully completed, and those savings were to be used to repay borrowings for the project. If not realised, officers are required to find the shortfall of savings through operational efficiencies. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Is it to be seconded? Councillor McGregor. I'll just lay out questions on this one. I've got ones probably for officers, as it's substantially the same. Does this mean that the Colac Otway Shire will not have to take a loan to fund this project?
The funding model in relation to the loan is unchanged, is my understanding of this. But if there's something in there that indicates otherwise, it would be good to be clear about it.
Yes, I read it that you'll be funding it from allocate 1.1 million of funds from the strategic wetlands and 200,000 from the path to form the 1.3. It says nothing about a loan.
Sorry.
That's for
That's
the
for
ilmenite
ilmenite.
wetlands
The
project.
modified scope relates to ilmenite wetlands project, and that
But
would
you're
be
pulling
cash
funding from a limit from the blue water to go in, and then you're replenishing it with 1.1 million from the strategic reserves. It doesn't say anything about taking a loan to top up the reserves.
funded. No, the point B relates to the funding of the ilmenite wetlands project. Can we just go from the top for me, just to make sure there's nothing changed? Yeah, so point 2 relates to the ilmenite wetlands project. Part A is about a modified scope. Part B is then to allocate $1.3 million to deliver the modified scope. There's a commitment of cash that Council has made to the Blue Water electrification project in April 2024. The proposal is to actually make a different allocation to that project of cash from Council's accumulated unallocated asset renewal funding. That would then mean that the original $842,000 of cash to Blue Water that had come from the Bruce Street proceeds is not required and would be returned to the strategic projects reserve. The allocation from the reserve is then effectively $1.1 million of Bruce Street funding.
Oh, yeah. So we would still
So
be
there's
loaning.
all cash, fully, the Council's commitment to the ilmenite wetlands reserve would be fully cash funded, and the Blue Water project would be part cash funded and part loan funded, as originally planned but with a different source of cash.
Okay, subject to the budget being adopted with a loan.
Yes, so the 2024-25 adopted budget does allow for a loan. The timing is different, so if council was to borrow that in the 25-26 year, it needs to be in the adopted budget. Council could choose to not put the loan in the budget, but actually fund further cash from somewhere or change the balance.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Buchanan.
I guess the bit on find the shortfall through operational efficiencies. I'd like to see that change to not affect any services that the council currently fund. Any normal services, day-to-day services, not to be pulled out of that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if that's one change that will give more confirmation about how we move forward on it, then I'm happy with that change.
Has been moved and seconded, so it'll have to be amended.
Well, man, I don't know what to do next.
Oh, you tested me a bit here too. So we'll have an amendment that we'll have to then vote on. So you'll need a wording on that amendment, Charlie. So it'll be under point 3, as long as no current services.
It's not to have any impact on the current services performed by council.
Mayor, just if I can perhaps help Councillor Buchanan, the way I read that before this little addition was find the shortfall of savings through operational efficiencies. Doesn't say through reduction in services, it just refers to saving through operational efficiencies. I think that's sort of self-explanatory. I know what Councillor Buchanan's trying to do, but I think it's sort of, to me, it says that anyway, that there's not going to be a reduction in services.
So for you, Mr Mayor, I think it's going to be hard, on a timing thing, it will be hard to kind of clarify as a timing thing until the project's done and we realise the savings. So if Councillor Buchanan takes in what Councillor Potter has said, that we just move back to my original motion, that council would be able to make sure that services are not impacted at that time when we follow this up at that stage.
Right, so we've got an amendment before us that has to be seconded. Are you happy with those? Are you happy with those, that wording? So full stop. Okay. So we have that amendment before us. Is it to be seconded? Well, you can't second your own amendment, Charlie. If there's no seconder, it'll lapse. Councillor Dude. Okay, now we're debating that amendment before us. If you like, or if you want to just put it to a vote. Yeah, Councillor Dude. But we have the amendment with that change of wording before us. We'll now put it to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Dude, Councillor Howard. Councillor Schramm, those against. Councillor Potter, it's carried 6-1. So that now becomes a substantial motion as the mover. Councillor Howard.
So I'm a little bit lost. We've just voted on it.
We've just voted on the amendment, which becomes
Voted on the amendment.
substantial motion as the mover, and you haven't spoken on it.
Right.
You got the floor.
Gotcha. Back on track now. Thank you, Mayor. Again, my changes, I'm fully supportive of the Letmite Wetlands project because I think it'll open those opportunities for residential housing, and that is something that's high on the agenda: housing, social housing, affordable housing, everything else. So, fully supportive of that. Again, my changes were trying to, again, back to being fiscal responsible and trying to shore up and tell the community that these savings, we are going as council to make them be realised one way or the other. So this project is funded over those 10 years, and, you know, the impact on council services and infrastructure renewal, etc., is minimal. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor McCrickard as the seconder. No? Anyone else wish to speak? I'll just say quick words. I'm not going to support this just based on, I think it's financially irresponsible. Granted, the previous council did it in good faith. I just don't think we got the finances and shouldn't be taking a loan for something that doesn't need replacing at this stage. I acknowledge the environmental arguments and I don't disrespect those at all, but I just don't think we're in the place. And whether I should say this rightly or wrongly, I don't have the faith in the organisation to deliver projects of this size on time. You look at the Eliminite wetlands we've just debated, and we haven't even started, and we're asking for millions and millions of dollars more. I just hope the savings we have are legitimate. I'm sceptical, but I hope it all pans out, and we'll see how this goes. But it looks like it'll probably be supported, and I just fingers crossed for the ratepayers and people of this community. Thank you, Councillor Howard, as the right reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I do take your comments on board. With the Eliminite Wetlands project, there should be two things that should be noted. The $200,000 funds that we've taken out of the reserve, or proposed to take out of the reserve, that doesn't stop any project that connects coastal communities or looks at pathways in the future. I just want to make that point. The other thing is also, for you, Mr. Mayor, with this wetlands project, it will be tested at tender stage as well, when council will get another bite at the apple.
Thank you. We now have missed out. I'm sorry, Councillor. We have the motion before us. We'll now put to a vote. All those in favour: Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCricker, Councillor Dee, Councillor Howard. All those against: Councillor Schramm. Is carried 6-1. Thanks, councillors. Very respectful debate. I appreciate that. We now move on to 7.4, coach parking in Kennett River. Do we have questions of officers? No? No, that's right. If there's no questions of officers, Councillor Potter's flagged an alternative motion, which I'll allow him to move.
Thanks very much, Mayor. I have flagged an alternative motion, which is on the screen. Do you want me to read out the...
Just read out the point 4.
The differences,
probably. Yeah, thanks.
So I looked at the recommendation and the paragraph 4, and I've changed the wording of that to read, write to the Department of Transport and Planning requesting that the department implements bollards and signage on the Great Ocean Road near Kennet River for the purpose of prohibiting parking of large tourist coaches and being able to enforce this outcome. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. I just, before I call for a seconder, just got a question. It's more, can you give an explanation to the public about why we're voting on this when it's a Gorkappa thing, based on Gorkappa's request, and they can't go direct to Department of Transport? Just a brief little quick summary on why we're deciding this.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Gorkappa has made the request to Council to effectively exclude large tourist coaches from parking in Kennet River Township, and that's reflecting the community concerns on that issue over a number of years. And they've made that request to Council as we're the local road manager within Kennet River. The Great Ocean Road itself is under the management of the Department of Transport, and point 4 there relates to writing to the department relating to actions that they would take on their own land in support of that.
Okay, thanks. Do we have a seconder for the motion of Councillor Potter's? Councillor Howard, as the mover, Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just for reference, I'm the council representative in the City Deals Kennet River Community Reference Group, and I've also been involved in advocacy for the City Deals funding and continued involvement with the community ever since. The allocation of the funding was designed to, at the request of the community, to address infrastructure shortcomings with the visitation of tourists to Kennet River, many of whom arrived on big tourist coaches. The community can quote a number of stories of the buses pulling up, the tourists getting off, walking up people's driveways, roads, poking koalas, throwing stones at birds and so forth. And this just heightened their want for some infrastructure to try and address the influx of large number of people into this small hamlet. The Gorkappa have recently produced a plan in relation to the City Deals Kennet River infrastructure. Including that plan was to allow one large tourist bus to enter the area. This did dismay the community, but to the credit of the new board and Gorkappa board, led by Libby Mears, the board has adopted the position not to allow big buses into the Kennet River area, but they need to ask us as the road managers to write to the Department of Transport and Planning to request that. This also leaves the situation that big buses theoretically could pull up on the Great Ocean Road. There's no real road shoulder there. There is a bit of room, but again, it creates lots of difficulties for the community, creates road safety issues. And I've included paragraph 4 requesting Department of Transport put up signage on the Great Ocean Road to prevent those large tourist buses from stopping there. Thanks,
Thank you.
Mayor.
Councillor Howard as seconder.
Again, I'm just guided by the community. They've done a lot of work in this space, so that's why I'm supporting the recommendation.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? All good. No. Right to reply, Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. We've got a motion before us. Councillors will now put to a vote. All those in favour. Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Dew, Councillor Howard, Councillor Strams, carried 7-0. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 7.5, Tirangower Drainage Scheme Advisory Committee appointment of community reps. The purpose of this report is to appoint community representatives to the Tirangower Advisory Committee. You're trying to trick me out by writing that twice. To assist the administration of the drainage scheme. Questions of officers? No. Councillors, as an officer... Hang on. Oh, no. Anyway, we need a motion on this one. Just for the public's view. We've got confidential attachments that list the names, but we don't do that publicly. And beside those names, they're given a number. So if we move a resolution with the numbers, that refers to the confidential report that's not available to the members of the public. So, councillors, does somebody wish to move a motion in relation to this matter? Councillor Hudgell, thank you.
So I just need to read a... just confirm.
Yeah, this is the hard part.
I should try the hard one.
So I think I'll just ask a question before you do it.
Okay.
Are they the numbers 2 to 11?
Through you, Mayor, the answer is if you're looking to appoint those in the attachment excluding the one that shares a household, it would be 2 to 11. That's correct.
Thank you. I hope that helps, Councillor Hudgell. It's 2 to 11.
So A would be number 2. Yeah, beautiful. Awesome. I've got this. Appoints the following people to the Drainage Scheme Advisory Committee for a 4-year term. A, number 2. B, number 3. C, number 4. D, number 5. E, number 6. F, number 7. G, number 8. H, number 9. I, number 10. And J, number 11.
Thank you. You've done well. Do we have a seconder to that motion? Councillor McCrickard, do you wish to speak? No, thank. I'd just like to say thank you to all those people that have volunteered to go on this committee. I think it's a great thing, and you certainly help out our community by giving your service. Thank you. Is no one else want to say anything? No, we have that motion before us. Councillors, we'll now put to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Duke, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm, carried 7-1. Thank you. I'll move on to the next item, and then after this one we'll have a quick 5-minute break. 7.6, Colac Regional Sale Yards Advisory Committee, appointment of community representatives. The purpose of this report is to consider the appointment of community representatives to the Regional Sale Yards Advisory Committee following an expression of interest process. Do councillors have any questions of officers? No. We'll need a motion for this one, councillors. Does anyone wish to move a motion in relation to this matter? The item will lapse. No. Councillor Buchanan? Okay. Just say, yes, I'll move. I have a mover. Just push the button so we can all hear you. You got a microphone?
Numbers 3, 4, 5.
Can you read out point 3 in full, please? Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not with you.
You want to move the motion for option 3?
Like to move option 3.
Yep, option 3 appoints persons to point 3 is appoints persons to the Colac Regional Sale Yards Advisory Committee to fill the vacant role as follows. 1, the farmers' representatives is number 3. 2, the dairy farmers' representative is number 4. 3, the buyers' representative is number 5. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Potter. As the mover, Councillor Buchanan. Wish to say anything as the mover?
No.
Thank you. As a seconder, Councillor Potter.
Yeah, just support Councillor Buchanan and his thanks for those people who volunteered to join the committee. I'm sure they'll do a good job, and we'll see how they go during the course of the next 12 months.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Now again, I just wish to thank those reps. It's a very important role at the sale yards. It's one of council's only businesses that makes a profit back into the community. So it's a vitally important facility out there, and it's a big responsibility to represent the farmers and the dairy farmers. Thank you to all those people that applied and haven't been successful in getting on the committee. We now have a motion before us. We'll put to a vote. Councillors, all those in favour: Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCriggar, Councillor Dedew, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. He's carried 7-0. We'll just adjourn briefly just for councillors to have a freshen up, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you. All right, thank you. We'll resume. I apologise for the additional delay. That's my fault. I was talking to some people about some issues in the upcoming agenda items. Thank you. We'll now move on to 7.7, the Colac Visitor Information Centre expression of interest. Do we have questions of officers in relation to this item? Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to ask a question in relation to statistics. If this is adopted, we'll be asking someone else to provide the visitor information servicing on behalf of council, which was the object of the expression of interest. But I think it's important that council need to know the numbers of visitors, the types and demographics and so forth. Will that be built into any arrangement that we might agree to?
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, great question. Yes, it would. Really important for council to understand where visitors are coming from, what they're doing in town and in the region, what attractions they're looking to visit, and yeah, where they're actually from. So we would build that into the lease to provide some basic data back to council so we can evaluate the service that would be provided, but also understand where visitors are coming from and what they want to do.
Thanks, Councillor Potter. Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor. And just a query in relation to businesses, organisations that may want to have their product or services displayed and all the rest of it. Are we confident that this will occur fairly and across the board? There won't be no favouritism or level of fees involved or so forth for just the small business or whoever?
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, we are comfortable with the response that we've received from the proponent. It was in their original proposal, but also following some clarification questions, it was made clear that the service would be available to all businesses within the Shire at no cost to display brochures and the like and provide information for those businesses. So we're comfortable. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howard.
A very quick question. Will there be synergies with the Apollo Bay Visitor Information Centre?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, that's definitely our intention. So you will see in the recommendation that the proponent would need to undertake education at certain times of the year and to also align with Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism and Colac Otway Shire tourism strategies and campaigns. So there would certainly be an alignment and a need to work in partnership in a way with Gorvic down in Apollo Bay.
Thank you. I need a question in relation to point G. Do you think it needs more clarity around that, or are you happy with it, that tenant responsible for all building maintenance as per not-for-profit sort of community lease should be written in there, just so it's clear that they're not responsible for all maintenance that might be outside of that those conditional agreements?
Through you, Mayor, yeah, that would be open to councillors to provide some additional wording if you'd like to make it a little bit clearer. And if that was the case, I would suggest, in accordance with council's property leasing policy, which has a schedule around maintenance responsibilities for not-for-profits.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Potter?
Thanks, Mayor. Last one. Just in relation to the proposal and the use of volunteers. The use of volunteers has been front and centre for some time for some sections of the community, and I know there is a proposal to incorporate volunteers into the operation of the VIC. For those that may not have read the agenda or read the public part of the proposal, will there be some publicity from us about the fact that we've listened and heard that volunteering is still important to some members of the community, and that will be part of this should this be adopted?
Through you, Mayor. If this recommendation was adopted, obviously there's a bit of work to do to finalise a lease, but upon execution of the lease, we would certainly work with the new lessee to provide some communication, and as we've heard previously, volunteering at the centre is of importance to certainly some members of our community. So I think that would be a key talking point in any promotion or communication.
Thanks, Mr. Surham.
Thank you. Councillors, any other questions? No. Well, I'll move, and reluctantly, I'll move the alternative with the extra wording in point G. To tenant responsible for all building maintenance as per the council property leasing policy, and in that policy, so that's full stop, but in that policy it relates to not-for-profit, so I don't need that extra wording. Where are we? Tenant responsible as per the council property leasing policy. Yep, I'm happy with that. Oh, yeah, no, yeah, doesn't worry me. No, seconded by Councillor Potter. As the mover, to speak briefly on it, I'm rapt that a community group organisation has put in for this. I remember when it went out, I was like, oh, what if no one puts in? We might lose this, but I think it's fantastic. I think the applicant is eager to get going, has got a passion for the community and a passion to see tourism thrive and grow. And I think council giving the opportunity to this group to do it, it still keeps the volunteers and a vital service to our community. And I think it's fantastic that all going well that we got this result. Thank you, Councillor Potter, as the seconder.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Totally support this this motion. I think I moved the motion in the last council that we go out seeking expression of interest to have a visitor information service delivered. Believer in the importance of a visitor information centre, but it had been coming at some cost to council, and thought there was another way of doing that, and I think this proposal ticks all the boxes. I look forward to a greater presence of tourist offerings and promotion of Colac and District, which is a big thing in my bucket. I think this not-for-profit business will be very professional, will look after the volunteers that want to volunteer, and I think there's a very good outcome after lots of meetings, discussions over the last couple of years. I think the community, well, I hope the community will be happy with this, because I certainly am.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? No? I'll reply. Just thank everyone again. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour: Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudson, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCricker, Councillor Dew, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. It's carried 7-1. No, 7-0. Thank you. I don't know where that extra one came from. It's 7.9, letter from Minister of Local Government. Any questions? Oh. So I'd skip a page. Sorry, bear with me. I did. Fat fingers. Sorry, 7.8, Regional Community Sports Infrastructure Fund, Round 2, proposed funding applications. The purpose of this report is to consider potential applications to the Victorian Government's Regional Community Sports and Infrastructure Fund Round 2, and I note that Council Officer Ian Surin had a conflict on this item. Did you wish to speak to it? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just want to declare a general conflict of interest for this item, 7.8, 8 Regional Community Sports Infrastructure Fund Round 2. As my family are members of the Colac Cricket Club, which is a tenant of the Lake Oval, there are a number of projects listed in the report for this reserve for consideration by councillors.
Thank you. Any questions of officers in relation to this? Sorry? No. Thank you. We have an officer recommendation in the report. Does any councillor wish to move that? Councillor Howard, is it to be seconded? Councillor Hudgell? Councillor Howard is the mover. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First, I congratulate the officers to getting all the information ready so we can actually put some funding applications in. One interest to me was the Apollo Bay Rec Reserve cricket nets upgrade. I did have a tour of that, and it is a worthwhile project for health and safety, but also for inclusiveness. I note they have a great member base and a great gender balance as well. So the facility is being used by all of the different parts of the community, and I play tennis right next door, and I know what I see is how inclusive and friendly that sport is and that club. So I'm fully supportive of their upgrade. Thank you, and the other projects too.
Thank you. Councillor Hudgell as the seconder.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to follow on from what Phil had said, Councillor Howard had said, and just thank the officers for all their work that they've put into this. And I know that it's going to allow lots of opportunity for development for all those groups. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Buchanan, sorry.
Just a quick question. I noticed in the newspaper there's
Hey, Charlie, the questions are done. You just got to speak to the item.
thought I got there in time.
No, you're all right. You want the projects are great. Yep.
A local energy supplier, Akiona, I've put an ad in there about grants. Does council work in with those people, or?
Yeah, occasionally they do, Charlie. Yep. Thanks. Well, someone can answer that if you want.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm happy to answer that. Yeah, we do. The applications come from the community groups directly to Ashiona, but if groups need support with their funding applications, we're always happy to help out where we can. Yep.
Councillor McCrickard.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question. I'm sorry, we're still asking questions? Just one question. Yeah. How do you determine clubs how much contribution they make? Oh, sorry, Nicole.
Through the Mayor, clubs come to us with requests for improvements to their facilities, and then we work with them to see who owns the asset and whether or not they have capacity to be able to contribute towards the project as well, and then what matching funding we can try and get from the state
terrific.
government.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else in debate? No. I just wanted to congratulate some of these clubs. I know when I was growing up, you had your Otway, your Jellybrand, a lot of those clubs were pretty much fighting for survival and nearly gone, and to see them still here and thriving and the participation numbers and the use we get out of the Eastern Reserve netball courts. And I just want to make note that we are aware of the dire situation down at the netball courts, and hopefully we get the funding, and if we don't, we're certainly aware that we need those lights for the season and those sort of things to continue. So well done for all the contributions from everyone, and hopefully we're successful in this. I can't even remember who moved it. Councillor Howard, right reply. Thanks. I'll now put it to a vote. All those in favour: Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Dadu, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. Carried 7-0. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 7.9, the letter for the Minister for Local Government, questions of officers. No. We have an officer recommendation before us. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Howard. Councillor Potter as a mover.
Thanks, Mayor. Quite rightly, the Minister for Local Government has written to Council at the end of the period under which we had a monitor seeking assurance from us that we'll be better and we'll pay attention to recommendations. I think it's a well-worded reply from, I think you have to sign it, Mayor. Do you? Yeah, so I think it's a well-worded reply and endorse that letter going out.
Councillor Howard is the seconder.
Yep, I thank the CEO for the wording. I think that wording is very appropriate. And I think the Minister should take a look at the tape of this council meeting to show that we can debate and the unity that we've got and we're doing good governance, I think, anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank my fellow councillors for allowing me to write the letter. What's in the officer's report is only some of what can go in the letter, and giving me the authority and free rein to write what else I like in that letter. I appreciate it. What are you joking? No. Any other councillor wish to speak? No. We have we have the motion before us. We'll now put to a vote. All those in favour: Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCricker, Councillor Dew, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. Carried 7-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 7.10, the adoption of the revised Audit and Risk Committee Charter. Any questions of officers? No. We have the recommendation in the officer recommendation in the report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Howard. Have a seconder. Councillor Schramm. I'll do it because we're both on the Audit Committee. Councillor Howard is the mover.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this has been through the Audit and Risk Committee, who is a very functioning and well-governed committee, so I don't think you'd have any problems with the adoption of this charter.
Thank you. Any other council wish to speak? No. Right or reply? No. We now have a motion before us. We'll put it to a vote. All those in favour: Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCricker, Councillor Dew, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. It's carried 7-0. We now move on to item 7.11, S6 Instrument of Delegation, Council to members of Council staff. The purpose of this report is to present an updated S6 Instrument of Delegation from Council to members of staff, S6 Instrument for each of the relevant acts and regulations because of the biannual update to legislation as advised by Maddox Legal Services. This updated S6 instrument also incorporates updates made as part of the recent organisational restructure. Do any councillors wish to ask questions of officers? No. Does anyone wish to move a motion in relation to this item? Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move an alternative motion. And I'll read the changes, which is in section 2 of the motion that's on the books. In the exercise of powers conferred by the legislation referred to in the attached instruments of delegation, attachment 2, delegates to the members of council staff holding, acting in or performing the duties of the officers or positions referred to in the attached instruments of delegation, the powers, duties and functions set out in that instrument with the following changes to the delegations under the Planning and Environment Act 1987. A. Section 52(1)(b) changed to delete reference to delegating a power and instead include in the conditions and limitations a note stating to include in the conditions and limitations a note stating the officers nominated as delegates are authorised to respond to notice of applications submitted to the Minister for Planning through the Development Facilitation Program. B, under section 60, 61.1, 62.1, 62.2, 65B, 84.1 and section 96G1, 1, delegate delete these words from the conditions and limitations, or where the land is in the farming or rural conservation zones and the officer's recommendation is to refuse an application to use or develop a land for a dwelling, except where a determining referral authority under the planning scheme has recommend refusal of the application. So part 2 is include these words in the conditions and limitations. Or where the land is in the farming or rural conservation zones and the application is either to use or develop land for a dwelling, except where a determining referral authority under the planning scheme has recommended refusal of the application. And second point, for the subdivision of land to excise an existing dwelling.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Chrissy, do you have a question? Sorry. Yep.
Sorry, I'm a bit vague on what to do. If I second it, can I add to that? Or can I just ask a question now?
You can ask a question.
Yeah, I'll just ask a question.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we could put a limit on trialling this as to see how it goes in 6 months and just see how, whether there's been positive or negative review.
I'll seek clarification, but I think the delegations come every 6 months anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Buchanan. Councillor Howard is the mover. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I want to put some clarification around this because this is respecting our professional officers in the Planning Environment Department who do a fantastic job. But what, as councillors, when I was appointed to council, I understand that there's some really sensitivity in the rural and conservation zones, and that can be for approval and for refusal. We have that interconnection with our rural towns with farming, and we certainly, as councillors with the local knowledge, need to protect productive farming land, but also make sure that we're allowing people to develop their land in a proper and orderly way. As Councillor Dadoud has indicated, one of my concerns is it going to slow down the process for people to get approvals? I think we've got to monitor that, and if as a collective we think it's better then that we put the delegations back to the officers, then so be it. But I think it's worth a trial because these are, I think, the most, not contentious, but the ones that need deliberations, not just on the recommendations for approval or refusal, but conditions that may surround those approvals as well. So that's basically the most rationale around that, but I'm hoping that it will result in good governance in our decision, helping the officers with their deliberations, protecting our farmland and developing housing where it's appropriate. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Buchanan is the seconder. Yep.
I think adopting this motion will better the collaboration between officers and councillors for the long term. I think it's a far better way of doing business. It'll make a teamwork. There'll be teamwork decisions come out of it on the way through. I think there'll be discussion around that. I guess in respect of the officers, when you're looking about urban development, they're the experts. The role of the planners affect large numbers of people within towns, and it's very, very important that all those very, very minute rules and regulations are adhered to. But in the farm zone, it affects very little people except a few neighbours and stuff like that, and I think this gives an opportunity for councillors, as we've been elected, to represent people, to have some input into the planning on the outer limits of the towns, and I think it'll have huge benefits for the council and the Shire.
Thanks, councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor, I've been wrestling with this. Have great respect for our officers and the way they apply the rules of the planning scheme. As I think all councillors now know, I have a been in my bonnet about food security and protecting valuable farmland, and we're getting less farmers and less land. But I've listened to the words of Councillor Howard, and I'm happy to give it a go for 6 months, Mayor, and see where it falls. Again, I think everyone knows my thoughts in relation to protecting farmers, so we'll see how we go, and I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? Right, a reply. Councillor Howard.
Probably just for the community's sake too, that to note that planning applications can be decided at a council meeting. They don't need to all go to the planning committee. So that gives us an extra meeting if we need to make a decision.
Thank you. Councillors, we have a motion before us. We now put it to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Dew, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm, carried 7-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to 7.12, adoption of council expenses and support policy. Questions of officers, councillors? No questions about the expenses policy? No. We have an officer recommendation in the agenda. Does anyone wish to move that? Councillor Howard, to be seconded. Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Howard as the mover.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, it just gives clarification of around our expenses and the proper governance.
Thank you. Councillor McCrickard as the seconder. No. Any other councillor wish to speak? No. Councillor Howard as the mover. Right of reply? No, thank you. We have a motion before us, councillors. We'll now put it to a vote. All those in favour? I'm going the other way. Councillor Howard, Councillor Dews, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Potter, Councillor Schramm. Carried 7-0. I confused myself. We now move on to item 7.13, award of contract, supply and delivery of a grader. Do we have any questions of officers? No. Just for the public, we do get a confidential attachment to this report that sort of explains in a little bit more detail, but contains confidential commercial type of information. There's an officer recommendation in the report. Councillors, do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, is it to be seconded? Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Potter as the mover.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'm pleased to move this, Mayor. A new grader as part of our normal process for updating our fleet after a period of time. It's going to be a yellow one, I think. Wish they come in a different colour, but anyway, very, very important to have good equipment for our staff to use. I've been hearing some great reports about some of the work being done on our outlying gravel roads, so this new grader is even going to add to that. So, yeah, happy to support this, the awarding of this contract.
Thank you. Councillor McCrickard as a seconder.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I was just about to say the same thing as Councillor Potter. A lot of positive comments out around Corunnan gravel road. So that's really, really good. So more the better.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? No. Right of reply, Councillor Potter. No. We have a recommendation before us, councillors. We'll now put to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Dew, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm, carried 7-0. Thank you. We now move on to item 7.14, award of contract, Pengilly Avenue, Apollo Bay Road reconstruction. Questions of officers? No. We have an officer recommendation in the agenda. Does any councillor wish to move that? Councillor Dew. Any councillor second it? Councillor Howard. Councillor Dude as the mover. Thank you.
This is such an important road for Apollo Bay. It is the conduit to the kindergarten, the hospital and other schools. It's one of the major parking spaces, and it's good to see that it's happening and that there is time being invested in Apollo Bay and the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Howard is the seconder.
Yeah, I support the comments of my fellow councillor, and yeah, no, I'm very excited about this project, so thank the officers for making it a priority.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? No. Right of reply, Councillor Dude. No. We have a recommendation before us, councillors, a motion. I will now put it to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Dude, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm, carried 7-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 7.15, revocation of authorised officer under the Planning Environment Act. The purpose of this report is to revoke an instrument of the appointment and authorisation to Rachel Macho as he has ceased employment with Council effective the 31st of December 2024. Any questions of officers? No. Yes, we do. Councillor Potter.
Sorry, Mayor. Just a question in relation to this process. When we employ someone that needs an authorisation under the Planning and Environment Act and other acts, we go through this process, and then when they leave us, we have to go through this process again. Is there a way of tidying this up so perhaps we can deal with it once?
Happy to respond through the chair. So yes, we do understand that we only want to have our council spend time on really important things, and we're looking to actually have council in the future, when making authorisations to officers, recognise that they will sunset and no longer exist once the employment is finished.
Thank you. We have an officer recommendation in the agendas. Any council wish to move that? Councillor Potter, seconded. Councillor Hudgell. Councillor Potter is the mover.
Operational, thanks, Mayor. No need to speak to it.
You just spoke to it. Councillor Hudgell. Any other councillor wish to speak? Right of reply, Councillor Potter. We have a motion before us. We'll now put it to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Dude, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm, carried 7-0. Thank you. Now move on to item number 8.1. In the agenda, the Audit and Risk Committee meeting unconfirmed minutes, 5th of December 2024. The purpose of this report is to provide information for the Colac Otway Shire Audit and Risk Committee unconfirmed minutes dated the 5th of December 2024. Any questions of officers? No. There's a recommendation in the agenda. Do I have a councillor wish to move it? Councillor Howard, is it to be seconded? Councillor Schramm. Councillor Howard as the mover.
Again, I'm pleased to be a member of this committee. It's very functional. It's got our external members, so it's a very good committee to participate in, and the minutes are there for good governance.
Excellent. Any other council wish to speak? No. Right of reply? No. We have the recommendation motion before us. Put it to a vote. Thanks, councillors. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Dude, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. Carried 7-0. We now move on to the 8.2 quarterly performance report. Please note there's a revised officer recommendation. Are there any questions of officers? No. The revised officer recommendation, I'll just ask Andrew, officer, I can't remember your title, General Manager or something, to explain those changes.
Thanks for the introduction, Mayor. The report was presented, and in reviewing the report just prior to the meeting, there were some wording issues that were identified, and I think it just makes it easier for those that aren't accounting literate to understand the report if we just make those minor wording changes. So they've been suggested, and as per what's up on the recommendation.
Thank you. So there's slight changes to what was in the public agenda. Do I have a councillor wish to move the revised officer recommendation? Councillor Howard, is it to be seconded? Councillor Hudgell? Councillor Howard is the mover. Thank you.
Thanks to the officers for preparing this report. Again, another good governance thing. Shows where we are, and I'm very excited about our structure plan for Apollo Bay in there. So,
thank you, Councillor Hudgell. No. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Howard, or reply? No. We have the motion before us. Councillors now put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Dude, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm, carried 7-0. We now move on to item 8.3, informal meetings of councillors. The purpose of this report is to inform of the meetings of councillors. It does not require a formal decision of council. Any questions of officers? No. We'll move. That concludes the officer reports. We now move on to item 9 in the agenda, which is urgent business. Councillors, are there any items of urgent business? Councillor Howard.
through you, Mr. Mayor, I have an urgent business item that I would like to be considered. That Council consider an item of urgent business regarding the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund Levy, and the rationale behind why I think it should be included in urgent business is that we have a MAV, which is the Municipal Association of Victoria. That's right, Zoe, isn't it? Yep. And they meet at a state conference, and I want, if we to get this motion in, the motion I'm going to propose, it needs to be ratified by council at this council meeting. So that's my rationale behind that. So I will move that council consider an item of urgent business regarding the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund Levy.
Thank you. Councillor Howard is proposing an item of urgent business. I'll now call for a seconder.
I'll second it.
Councillor Potter. Councillor Howard, if you'd like to...
I think we've got to vote on that one first.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we do.
Yep.
Hang on. Just give us a second. You can speak on that thing, but no, I'm guessing no one wants to. Okay, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Dew, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. These carried 7-0. So, councillors, now that the item has been admitted to the agenda, can I have a motion, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion is that council submit the following motion for consideration at the MAV State Council meeting on 16th of May 2025, that with respect to the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund Levy, the Municipal Association of Victoria requests the Victorian Government to reassess the funding model to ensure it is equitable and does not disproportionately burden rural communities. 2, shift levy collection responsibilities to the state government. 3, compensate councils for administrative costs in collection duties remain delegated. implement a comprehensive communication strategy to clarify the levy's purpose and allocation.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Buchanan. As the mover, would you like to speak?
I'd like to hear comments from the other councillors first. Is that okay? Being Councillor Buchanan.
Yeah, well,
I get the right of reply, so
yeah, okay.
I'm happy for it to move to Councillor
Okay,
Buchanan.
seconder, Councillor Buchanan.
Yeah, I'd like to move that motion.
Yeah,
second it, yeah.
Would you like to speak on it?
Yeah.
As the seconder.
I guess it's a motion that's, to get the letter in there is very important, but long term I think it needs follow-up on a regular basis, because until we get some sort of result out of this, one letter's not going to do a lot. I notice, and collaborate with some of the other farming peak bodies like the VFF. I noticed Scott Hosking had an article in the Colac Herald. So I think it's important that this council, officers, have some dialogue with those groups to get some more impetus. This letter, MAV, might be good for some things, but whether they'll do the whole job, we don't know. It's a very serious situation. It's going to cost farmers a lot of money.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'm very pleased to see this this motion accepted as an item of urgent business. I know that our neighbours, Crangamite Shire, have done a similar thing. The MAV are an effective body in lobbying, and I've got no doubt other rural councils will, if they haven't done the same thing, will be very interested to see this motion from Colac Otway. And I'd like to thank Councillor Howard and Councillor Buchanan for bringing this.
Thank you. Councillor McCrigard.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm really pleased to see this brought before council tonight, and when you see the effect that it has on so many of our rural people, it's a very, very worthwhile initiative by Councillor Howard and Councillor Buchanan, and I think Councillor Buchanan is quite right that we do need to follow up extensively, because having been in similar sort of situations, one letter sometimes isn't enough, but it's certainly a fantastic starting point. So thank you both.
Thank you. Any other councillor? No, just before I move back to Councillor Howard, just I think it's great that we're writing to them. I think the changes the state government made, you know, it just nearly devastates communities. Already the cost of living's through the roof. You know, what they do with the money, who knows? So, you know, this is a great motion. I think, particularly in the regions, this is going to hit the farmers the hardest, and I'd love to see this levy shifted away from councils having to be the debt collector for this nasty sort of little tax. And, you know, like if we send out rate notices with up to $20,000 higher that they've got to pay, then we also have to be, you know, the hardship policy will kick in for the councils, and they'll struggle to pay their rates, and it's just an extra burden on councils. I'd like to see the increase in tax, you know, completely abolished, but I think it should be wiped from councils from having to collect it. I think the state government need to start collecting their own, or we can separate the invoices off the rates notices at a very minimum. But I think we need to lobby. We need to lobby with our neighbours, our partners. It's not the farmers that are getting it, it's every household, every commercial property, and it's not a little bit, it's a massive amount. It's a huge increase, and I'm glad we're bringing this, so thank you. Councillor Howard.
So just in the right of reply, I thank councillors for their support and the officers as well, and I will take this to the State Council and make sure it is at the top of their agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the motion before us. Councillors will now put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor McCriggar, Councillor Duke, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. Carried 7-0. Now move on to the notice of motion. I just wanted to make note. I'll not be moving it. I'll let it lapse, and I'll give a reason that some of my fellow councillors would like a little bit more time to think on some of the wording. As members of the community would like to have the opportunity to address council on the topic of Australia Day and the celebrations around it. So, you know, I've heard my fellow councillors and some members of the community, and I'll be letting this lapse to more than likely bring it back at another council meeting. So I won't be moving it, therefore the motion has lapsed. Thank you. That brings us to the end of the meeting. It concludes the meeting of the Colac Otway Shire. I declare this meeting closed at 3:45 p.m. Thank you all for your attendance.